In the history of hip-hop, we've seen rivalries, we've seen lyrical battles, and we've seen tragic losses. But we have never seen anything quite like the career of NBA YoungBoy. At just 25 years old, Kentrell Gaulden has built a billion-stream empire while simultaneously being at war with almost half of the music industry. They say it's lonely at the top, but for YoungBoy, it's not just lonely, it's a battlefield. Most rappers play the game. They make alliances, they do features, and they keep the peace for the sake of the business. But YoungBoy, he tore the rule book to shreds. From the bloodstained streets of Baton Rouge and the deadly feud with TBG, to a full-scale industry lockdown against the likes of Lil Durk, King Von, and the OTF camp, YB has proven time and time again that he'd rather be a lone wolf than a fake friend. But how did it get this far? How did a kid from Louisiana become the most polarizing figure in rap history? We're talking about diss tracks that shut down the internet million-dollar bounties, and a me against the world mentality that has forced every major artist to pick a side. Today, we aren't just scratching the surface. We are digging deep into the archives to explain every single NBA YoungBoy beef. From the street wars that turned fatal to the industry snubs that sparked legendary diss tracks. If you think you know the whole story, think again. Let's break it all down. To truly understand why NBA YoungBoy moves the way he does today, you have to understand where he came from. This isn't just a story about rap lyrics. It's a story about a city divided. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the air is thick with tension, and loyalty is the only currency that matters. Before the Grammys, the private jets, and the billion-dollar streaming numbers, there was just Kentrell Gaulden, a kid from the North Side who was ready to risk it all for his circle. The most significant and deadliest conflict in YoungBoy's life is his beef with Fredo Bang and the TBG, Top Boy Gorilla Camp. To the outside world, it looks like two rappers fighting for crown of their city. But to the people in Baton Rouge, this is a civil war. For years, the NBA never broke again. Crew and TBG were actually somewhat connected. There was a time when these guys moved in similar circles. But as the saying goes, the closer you are, the harder you fall. The tension started as a slow burn. It was about respect, territory, and who really ran the streets of BR. But the spark that turned this Cold War into a literal battlefield was the tragic death of Bozilla. Bozilla was NBA YoungBoy's best friend, his brother in arms, and a rising star in his own right. In 2016, Bozilla was murdered. For YB, the world stopped. He didn't just lose a friend, he lost his anchor. Almost immediately, fingers started pointing toward the TBG camp. While no one was ever officially charged with a hit in a way that settled the score, the streets had already made their judgment. From that moment on, the Never Broke Again brand wasn't just a rap collective. It became a militia. YoungBoy's music shifted. It became darker, more aggressive, and filled with pain. Songs like I Ain't Hiding and Dedicated weren't just tracks of club. They were messages sent directly to the North Side. When Fredo Bang was released from prison in 2018, he returned to a city that was now dominated by the kid he used to know. Fredo was the face of TBG, a group with deep roots and legendary status in Baton Rouge. YoungBoy was a new, explosive force. The collision was inevitable. The industry tried to treat it like a normal rap rivalry, but you can't treat a street war like a marketing campaign. Every time Fredo dropped a song, fans would look for subliminal shots at YB. Every time YB went on Instagram Live, he was flashing green flags, the symbol of his crew, and sending warnings to anyone associated with the other side. It wasn't just about music anymore. It was about who could survive. In 2019, things hit a boiling point outside a Trump International Hotel in Sunny Isles Beach, Florida. YoungBoy and his crew were targeted in a drive-by shooting. While YB survived, an innocent bystander was killed, and YB's girlfriend at the time was wounded. The message was clear. This beef had no boundaries. It followed him wherever he went. The psychological toll of this specific beef is what created the industry versus me mentality we see in YoungBoy today. Because TBG had older connections in the rap game, YB began to feel like the industry was siding with his enemies. He felt that DJs, playlist curators, and other rappers were being friendly with Fredo Bang just to spite him. This is why YB stopped doing features. This is why he stopped showing up to award shows. He felt that if you weren't with him 100%, you were against him. But we have to talk about the music that came out of this era. This wasn't just dissing. YoungBoy mastered the art of pain music. He would blend the violence of the TBG beef with the heartbreak of losing his friends. Tracks like Lonely Child and Valuable Pain gave us a glimpse into the mind of a young man who was constantly looking over his shoulder. He was trapped in a cycle. He wanted to be the biggest artist in the world, but he couldn't leave the streets behind because the streets wouldn't leave him alone. Fredo Bang, on the other hand, played a different game. He was more calculated, often using humor and trolling on social media. Even when YoungBoy was placed on house arrest in Utah, the TBG ghost followed him. He was thousands of miles away from Louisiana, staring at the snow-capped mountains. Yet his lyrics were still focused on the humid, dangerous streets of Baton Rouge. He knew that as long as Fredo Bang was breathing and TBG was active, his work wasn't done. What makes the NBA versus TBG beefy of this story is that it set the blueprint. It taught YoungBoy that he couldn't trust anyone. It taught him that his circle had to be small, and his switch had to be ready. This beef is a reason why, when the Lil Durk and King Von situation happened later, YB didn't hesitate to escalate. He had already been through the worst kind of war back home. To him, Chicago was just another front in a war he had been fighting since he was 16. As we look back at this first chapter, we see a trail of lost lives, prison sentences, and broken homes. The Baton Rouge War didn't have a winner. It only had survivors. YoungBoy became a superstar, and Fredo Bang became a household name in the underground, but the cause was the peace of their city. This was a foundation. This was a training ground. And as YoungBoy's fame grew, so did the target on his back. Little did he know, his local beef was about to go national, and the next chapter would involve the biggest names in the game. Stay tuned, because if you thought the Baton Rouge streets were intense, wait until we talk about what happened when the King of the South met the King of the Trenches. If the beef with TBG was about YoungBoy's past, then the conflict with Lil Durk and King Von became the defining battle of his present. This isn't just a disagreement over a girl or a stolen chain. This is a clash of two of the most powerful movements in modern rap. The For KT/Slime movement from Louisiana and the OTF/O Block movement from Chicago. When these two worlds collided, the impact didn't just shake the charts. It changed the streets forever. To understand how this started, we have to look at the atmosphere in 2020. At the time, King Von was the hottest rising star out of Chicago. He was the face of the drill resurgence, known for his storytelling and his no-nonsense street reputation. NBA YoungBoy, meanwhile, was already a king in his own right, pulling numbers that even mainstream pop stars couldn't touch. For a while, there was actually a level of mutual respect, or at least a peaceful distance. There were even rumors of collaboration. But in the world of high-stakes rap, peace is often a fragile mask for underlying tension. The friction began on social media. Subtle likes, deleted comments, and cryptic captions. Fans started noticing that King Von was moving close to people who had issues with YoungBoy. In the streets, your association is your reputation. If you're friendly with my enemy, the logic goes, then you are my enemy. The tension centered around Quando Rondo, YoungBoy's most loyal artist and the little brother of the NBA camp. Everything changed on the night of November 6, 2020, outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into a nightmare that would rewrite rap history. An altercation broke out between King Von's crew and Quando Rondo's crew. Within seconds, punches were thrown and then shots rang out. When the smoke cleared, King Von had been fatally wounded. The shooter was identified as Timothy Leaks, also known as Lil Tim, a close associate of Quando Rondo. The internet exploded. The King of Chicago was gone, and the finger was pointed directly at the NBA camp. Even though YoungBoy wasn't physically in Atlanta that night, as the leader of the movement, the weight of the situation fell on his shoulders. This wasn't just another rap beef anymore. This was a blood debt. Enter Lil Durk. Durk and Von were more than just label mates. They were brothers. After Von's passing, Durk went silent for a moment, but everyone knew the storm was coming. The industry held its breath. People expected immediate retaliation in the streets, But what followed was a psychological and lyrical war that lasted years. Dirk began using his music to send chilling messages, often wearing O-block chains and referencing the ones we lost. YoungBoy, who was already dealing with legal troubles and house arrest, didn't stay quiet either. He embraced the villain role. While many rappers would have tried to distance themselves from such a tragic event to save their corporate deals, YB went the opposite direction. He doubled down. He wore the For KT flag more proudly than ever and sent a clear message. If you want war, you've got it. This tension culminated in early 2022 with a back and forth that the rap world will never forget. Lil Durk dropped Aha, a track filled with aggressive energy and clear shots of the NBA camp and Quando Rondo. The song was a massive hit, and Durk's fans felt he had claimed the victory, but they underestimated YoungBoy's work ethic and his anger. Less than 24 hours later, YoungBoy responded with, I hate YoungBoy. This wasn't just a diss track. It was a nuclear bomb. In over 4 minutes of pure, unadulterated rage, YB took aim at everyone. He dissed Durk, he dissed King Von, he dissed Durk's fiancée India Royale, and he even took shots at Apple Music and other rappers like Gucci Mane and Lil Baby for picking sides. He famously rapped, YoungBoy, they gon' kill you. You better stop at /FCK them industry and **** as I'm the one who started it. The song became an instant anthem for his slime fan base and proved that even as years passed, the beef evolved. While on house arrest, YoungBoy started the Stop the Violence campaign, which many thought was a sign of peace. He began talking about spiritual growth and changing his ways. However, every time things seemed to cool down, a new social media post or a leaked snippet would reignite the flame. The streets never forget, and in the case of Chicago and Louisiana, the wounds were deep. The NBA versus OTF saga is a cautionary tale about the intersection of fame and the street code. It showed that even with tens of millions of dollars in the bank, the shadows of the past can never truly be outrun. YoungBoy's legacy is now permanently tied to this conflict. It's the reason he's seen as a rebel, a man who stood up against the entire industry machine to protect his brothers. But at what cost? And we see a YoungBoy who is more isolated than ever, yet more popular than ever. He proved that he didn't need the industry permission to be a superstar, but he also gained enemies that will likely never stop watching his every move. This was the war that made him a legend, but it's also the war that ensures he can never truly rest. By the time 2022 rolled around, NBA YoungBoy had reached a level of fame that few rappers ever achieve. But unlike his peers, who used their success to build bridges and secure corporate partnerships, YoungBoy used his platform to burn them. This is a chapter where the Baton Rouge versus everybody mentality transformed into YoungBoy versus the music industry. He felt that the industry was a fake place where people played both sides as deadly beefs just to stay relevant. To YB, if you weren't standing with him, you were standing against him, and he was ready to let everyone know exactly how he felt. The first major industry legend to find himself in YoungBoy's crosshairs was Gucci Mane. This was a shock to many because Gucci is widely respected as a pioneer of the Southern trap sound that influenced YB himself. The tension started after Gucci Mane released a track with Lil Durk titled Rumors. To the average listener, it was just a song. But to YoungBoy, who was in the heat of his war with Durk and the OTF camp, Gucci working with his enemy was a direct sign of disrespect. YoungBoy didn't wait for a private phone call to handle the situation. He took it straight to the booth. In his Scorched Earth diss track, I Hate YoungBoy, he threw a blatant jab at the Atlanta legend, saying, used to FCK with Gucci till I seen he liked them PSSY and asterisk as. Gucci, known for his own history of street wars, didn't take it lying down. He responded with publicity stunt, where he questioned why a young artist would try to use his name for clout. The back and forth was a clear signal to the rest of the industry. YoungBoy was no longer looking for mentors. He was looking for targets. Next on the list was Lil Baby. For years, fans have been begging for a collaboration between the two biggest young stars in rap. However, as Lil Baby grew closer to the 4 Pico Farads and OTF circles, the chance of that happening vanished. YoungBoy viewed Lil Baby's neutrality as a facade. In the song I Hate YoungBoy, he didn't hold back, mocking babies for Pico Farah's movement, and making it clear that there was no room for friendship. This split, what makes this the story so fascinating is the psychological shift. In the beefs were about survival and street revenge. In the beef becomes about identity. Young Boy was fighting to prove that he didn't need the industry machine. He wanted to show that a kid from the trenches could become a global icon while being 100% authentic, even if that authenticity meant being antisocial and aggressive. By 2024 and 2025, the industry had largely learned to give Young Boy his space. He had created his own ecosystem. He didn't need the red carpets. He had his YouTube channel. He didn't need the industry parties. He had his mountain home in Utah. He became a ghost that haunted the rap game. Someone who could drop a song at 3 a.m. and shift the entire conversation without ever leaving his house. The industry beefs solidified NBA Young Boy as the ultimate rebel. While other rappers were focused on becoming brands and businessmen, Young Boy remained a raw artist. He reminded the world that hip-hop started as a voice for misunderstood and the outcasts. And if the price of being the realest was being the most hated man in the industry, Young Boy was more than willing to pay it. As we conclude this breakdown, we see a man who has fought on every front. The streets of his hometown, the rivals in Chicago, and the boardroom executives in New York and LA. Whether you love him or hate him, you have to respect the fact that NBA Young Boy never broke, and he certainly never chained for a check. This is a complete saga of a man who chose war over fake peace, and in doing so, became a legend in his own right. At the end of the day, the story of NBA Young Boy isn't just about rap beef. It's about the cost of authenticity in an industry built on smoke and mirrors. Whether you view him as a loose cannon or the only real person left in the game, you can't deny that Kentrell Gaulden has played by his own rules since day one. He's faced the streets of Baton Rouge, the wrath of Chicago's finest, and the cold shoulder of the industry's gatekeepers, and yet he's still standing. He's a reminder that you don't need a seat at the table when you own the entire building. But now, I want to hear from the realest audience on YouTube. What is your take on the Never Broke Again legacy? Do you think burning all these bridges with guys like Drake, J. Cole, and Lil Baby was a genius move to keep his circle pure? Or is he eventually going to run out of allies in a game that's designed to break you? And where do you stand on the Dirk situation? Do you think we'll ever see a day where the violence stops? Or is this a cycle that's destined to continue? Drop a comment below and let's get the debate started. I'll be jumping in to reply to the best takes. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the most dangerous game in hip-hop, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button right now. It helps the channel more than you know. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications. We've got plenty more breakdowns on the way, covering the stories that other channels are too afraid to touch. Thanks for riding with us today. Stay safe, stay loyal, and I'll see you in the next one.